Do you have a sales problem or a marketing problem? In today's video, I'm going to sort of break down how I was able to identify in the businesses that I've run, and the main one I ran that got to 45 million a year, whether there was a sales problem or it was a marketing problem, and sort of the differences of how I was able to see which one was what. So when you were looking at your business and you're trying to figure out if there's a sales or marketing problem, there is one key way I sort of figured it out in any situation I was in, month after month, quarter after quarter, okay? And this is something I don't think people do enough of. I think people usually undervalue this concept, but if anything, they need to overvalue it because it makes the world of the difference. And it's it's call reviews. Okay. For me, because obviously I was a sales guy and I currently am, but very much back then when I was full-time, the best way I was able to figure out whether it was a skill set problem, is it a sales problem, is it a marketing problem, is I simply reviewed sales calls of whether it was my team members, the setters, the closers, and it sort of gave me the patterns I had to recognize that would tell me like, okay, no, this is a skill set issue. Like, nah, that's, because sales guys will always complain that the leads aren't good enough, marketing will always complain sales isn't good enough. And I think that's healthy as long as it doesn't become a blaming game. But I had to figure out kind of what was the issue between the two. And so sort of the way I got everybody to like stop arguing and be like, what's the actual problem, is I looked at the calls and I'd be like, okay, sales problem, or nah, this is more marketing. And so the best way, if you're a manager or even a sales guy and you're trying to figure out the issues in this, with call reviews, the thing you're looking for is verbiage. So I can identify a lot of problems just based on what prospects tell me, especially at the beginning of a call. So whenever I thought there could be potentially a marketing issue, I would review the first 5 minutes of a setting call, or it could have been a closing call, okay? One or the other. And so in the first 5 minutes, I'm looking for specific type of languaging. So if the person's like, oh, I don't even know like why I booked in the call, or, I don't even know who the influencer is or the guy that, let's say is the founder of your company. Like if I don't know that, if they don't know that information as a prospect, it sort of tells me that, okay, there's probably something wrong here. There's some disconnect, because it's okay if you book the call and you don't remember why you booked it in, that can be solved through sales skills. But then what's not okay is the fact that you don't even know the guy that runs the company. That's a bit of a problem, okay? So like first 5 minutes of the call would tell me two things. And this is sort of what I had to do, because not only was I trying to fix marketing, but I also was the trainer of the company. So the first 5 minutes of the call told me if it was obviously a sales or marketing issue. The second thing it told me was what type of sales training I had to do for the team, right? So like the way I always looked at it was I would give, obviously the marketing team feedback, and sometimes they would implement it, sometimes they wouldn't. So in my mind, I sort of wanted to kind of secure myself where it's like, okay, worst case, if I give marketing feedback that they need to change this and they don't end up changing it, worst case, I'm just gonna go train the team on sales and find a way to make them better through it. Okay, so once you figure out whether there's a sales or marketing issue, which the only ways to do that is two things again. Do call reviews, review the first 5 minutes of a call, and then you're gonna review the last 10 minutes of the objection handling. So most of my call reviews in sales and marketing was literally just 15-minute reviews. Now I had 100 people in the company, so it's a bit different. I had to do a lot more volume of reviews. But if you're running a team right now of 5, 10, 15, 20 people, every week your manager, or if you're the CEO, you should be reviewing the first 5 minutes of the setting or closing call, and then you want to review the last 10 minutes of the objection handling if they're a closer. That's what you're trying to review. Why am I reviewing the last 10 minutes of the call? Because if in the last 10 minutes of the call, the prospect are saying things like, well, I only saw you like a day ago, or, oh, I just saw this ad like, last week. I don't know anything about you guys. Oh, like, I don't know anything about, kind of what your company does. Like if I'm getting objections like that, yes, being better at sales can solve that, but I would much rather go tell the marketing team like, hey guys, these people have no fucking idea why they're on the phone. They have no idea about the brand. Can we find a way to maybe nurture them through an email sequence? Can we find something we can send to them? Can we make the delivery of the low ticket product or the lead magnet faster? Like what can we do to nurture these prospects faster? So again, only way to really know if it's a sales or marketing issue is you have to do the hard work, which is call reviews. The best way to do call reviews for time efficiency is first 5 minutes of the setting or closing call, last 10 minutes of objection handling. Once I figure out whether it's a sales or marketing issue, I have two things that I can do, okay? And this is kind of what you reverse engineer. Number one is I sort of want to look at the marketing on the front end that is bringing in the leads. So I look at the marketing on the front end and I sort of figure out like if I'm a consumer and I'm going through this marketing or this funnel, number one, where are the drop-off points? But number two, what are the potential issues that, as a result of getting objections, not closing enough deals, like what are the actual issues maybe upstream in the marketing, whether it's inbound or organic, that could be causing the prospects to be unaware. Okay, if I run a lead magnet funnel and let's say I'm giving a free PDF and it's, PDF to booked appointment, which is one of the funnels we would run, the cost per acquisition on those booked appointments is going to be fairly low, but also the lead quality is going to be shit. So the KPI on a lead source like that should only be 15 to 20%. It's not going to be 30, 40, 50. Like it's just unrealistic, right? And so sometimes you do have like lead qualities, especially if you run a bigger company, right? Like, we were spending probably 800 grand a month on ads. So like we had a lead source called the top 50 objections where it was a free PDF to a booked appointment. Now the lead quality on that was dog shit. They knew nothing about the brand. And it had a 20 to 25% conversion, but what it did is it hedged our ad spend, right? But that also means for the closers that were specifically assigned to that lead source, I sort of have to pay them more because they're working a shit lead source and I can't give them the same KPI that I would give to like a website lead or an inbound book, right? So you're starting to see the difference where it's like data can be misconstrued, right? To where it can make your sales team look really good or really bad. It can make your marketing team look really good or really bad. So the point is you have to have a level of in-depth research, right? Depending on the lead sources of how your leads are coming in, how you're communicating with them. Because the script I have for somebody that goes from a lead magnet to directly booking a call and they have no context is different than a lead that comes in through a website that's probably been through at least an hour worth of my content. It's just a far different way. And so the data, the KPIs, the whole structure is different. That also means marketing has a different structure. So for the top 50 objections, which was a lead magnet to a booked appointment, frankly, the only KPI the marketing team had for that lead source was keeping the cost per acquisition as low as humanly possible. Because again, the whole goal of that lead source wasn't to make a lot of money. It was to hedge the ad spend to get more leads in, which would then get retargeted to hopefully then buying a higher ticket product with us. So that meant the KPI for our front end team was way lower for that. So first thing is you sort of want to look at the marketing on the front end and how the leads are coming in. The only other thing you sort of want to look at is what's the sales process. And then the third thing, which I'll describe in a sec here, is going to be back end off no sales. So here's what I mean by this. Let's say you look at the front end marketing and you're trying to figure out, you figured out it's a sales or marketing issue. It's usually a combination of both, and you're trying to make marketing better. And let's say you make some tweaks to the marketing. Okay, perfect. So let's say check mark done. Now my marketing team that I used to work with, they didn't really want to make any changes, right? So that I had to usually always fix sales, but that's also what got me really good at like fixing sales processes. So then it comes to step number 2, which is I need to fix the sales process. So if I have, let's say, a marketing problem, and let's pretend it's not a sales problem, that means I need to have mechanisms and like things I do between the booked appointments to like, let's say, increase the show up rate, increase the quality, increase the intent to buy, right? So like I have to figure out ways of like, okay, people are booking in, they're usually, they're unknowing of the brand or like what we do. So like what can we do between, let's say, Friday and Monday when this person's appointment is booked to get them the most nurtured possible? What content, what resources can I send? So the second step is you got to sort of look at the sales process of the text messages, the email sequences, like everything. You sort of want to look at that and then identify, okay, like what can I add into this that will increase the quality of the buyer I want, which then should result in a higher conversion rate. A lot of times people just fix their inbound or they just fix the sales process. And a lot of times people don't do it correctly. So it's about doing the right thing in the right way at the right time. So the first step is let me fix my inbound. If I can't fix my inbound or I've tried it, but it still isn't working, then I go to my sales process. I figure out what am I not doing and what am I overdoing in my sales process. So if I'm overdoing confirmations, but I'm underdoing value in my confirmations to get them more of a quality buyer, that's probably a problem. The same way, if I'm just sending 3-hour-long webinar recordings to my prospects before they hop on a sales call, their chances of consuming it are probably very low, which means they're not going to go through it, and then I'm probably going to get that objection on the sales call, right? So it's the sort of ecosystem you have to build, which is kind of what we do with our B2B side of the impact team. It's like you have to sort of build an ecosystem where like you're putting people in the right position to do the right thing at the right time. For your sales team, for your marketing team, for the setters, everybody. Okay, so the second thing I would look at if I'm trying to like fix sales and marketing is I look at the sales process. Third thing I want to look at is what is the back end process off of no sales. This is something people miss. Like for some reason, people believe that all because I don't close a deal, even salespeople, but even owners, it's like if I don't close a deal, I'm just going to keep sending them emails through a generic fucking email sequence, and yeah, like they'll eventually buy. It's like that's not how it works, man. Average open rate on emails is less than 5%. I think it's like 2.5 to 3.5%. It's not that fucking hot. We had this routine back in the day that I think worked really well. If we ever couldn't sell somebody on a call, what we would do is we would let them attend a free coaching call as a guest. There was like a form we had to fill out where they would hop on a free like live call with the founder, and they would be there, and then afterwards like the sales guy would call them up being like, hey bro, how did you like the session? Was it good? Was it bad? Like, do you want to move forward? Blah, blah, blah. And it's not like we converted 50% of those deals, but let's say out of like 10 people, 1 or 2 of them would be like, on average 10 to 20%. So let's say 15 would be like, yeah bro, that was incredible. I really want to be a part of it. And then the rest of the 85 are like, hey bro, it's still a no. Like I appreciate you letting me hop on, but I'm not ready yet. Right? But the point is like there was a back end process. So if you do 10%, like 15%, but we were running a $3.5 million a year company, you're looking at 200 to 250 a month, which is on average an extra 3.1 to 3.2 million a year in extra cash that wouldn't have been generated if we didn't have an SOP. Now every company sort of needs a different SOP of how they do back end sales for no sales, right? It's going to be different company to company, depending on if you have a coaching business, if you have a consulting business, if you have live events as a business, like it's very dependent. And when I work with like B2B clients or like businesses that come to us, I sort of create a custom process depending on what their model is and like what products they're trying to sell. But the point is you need to have an SOP on the back end of what you do after no sales. Do not just tell your sales team to keep following up with people till the day they die, because again, you're relying on humans and there's always human error, which means they're probably not going to do it. They're probably going to forget. They're going to have a great excuse of why they didn't follow up with their no sales, but it's probably not going to get done. And then you look back at 30 days, like if you just go to your CRM right now and you look back on the past 30, 60 days of no sales, there's probably an extra 20 to 30% of your revenue just sitting there, but you haven't done jack shit with it besides send random email sequences, or they haven't been contacted at all, which is the worst thing to do. So just to recap, if you right now are confused whether it's a sales or marketing issue, first thing you're going to do is you're going to do call reviews. First 5 minutes of the setting or closing closing call, last 10 minutes of the objections your salespeople might be getting, you're gonna look at the verbiage that's being said, and if somebody is clearly unaware of the brand or the name and like they have no context, then you know it's a bit of a marketing problem. If they're just giving vague answers or if their resistance is high, that's more of a sales problem. Now, depending on what I need to fix, I always start off by fixing the marketing on the front end, then I fix the sales process, then I figure out a back end sales, system on the back end to go after no sales. That's how you can identify whether it's a sales or a marketing problem.